that Big Kid Flag Foundation is fantastic. The work that they're doing, and I know they've been working closely with the UK Dukes as well. And the UK Dukes is a massive name here with the work that they're doing in schools and stuff like that. So yeah, the work that both of those two organisations have been doing has just been fantastic for our sport.
Welcome back to another episode of George on Sports with me, your host George, and joining me on today's show, we've got Jack of the London Smoke, and we've got Liam of the Manchester Crows, Team GB flag footballers. Guys, how are you? And thank you for joining the show.
No, thanks for having us, man. This is awesome. Very excited to be here. Watched quite a few of your shows and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm very excited and honoured to be part of this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, you would have seen that we recently had some of the GB ladies on the show. Ellie, Grace. So it's only right that we get you guys on the show too and talk some more flag football. But talking of flag football, I'm going to get straight into it and ask you guys, and I'm going to start with you, Jack. Why flag football? Of all sports, why flag football?
So for me, it's about the accessibility. So I started playing contact, and I played contact just through the love of enjoying the NFL. Basically, I started watching the NFL when it was Steelers Cardinals Super Bowl. What's that? 2009, 10, something like that. And that was the first time I watched football. Loved it, and then kind of got hooked from it ever since then. And then I started doing some contact with the Maidstone Pumas, who don't exist anymore, unfortunately. And the East Kent Mavericks youth side. That was when I was like 16, 17 sort of thing. Moved to London, and then I found out about Go Mammoth Sports. If anyone's in London, you'll have heard of Go Mammoth. They offer like a wide range of like amateur sports for both men and women sort of thing. And they were doing flag football as that. So I just said it to my partner, I was like, shall we sign up? I'll teach you how to play sort of thing. And so we did it. And me and Harry met a great group of guys, a group of friends, and kind of done it from there. And a couple of seasons of that, just kind of messing about, having a bit of fun with it. And then I was like, actually, not too bad at this. And I was one of the other guys on one of the teams we was playing against. He was basically like, do you play for a club or anything like that? And I was like, didn't even know these clubs existed. So he was like, just go onto Google, have a look. I started searching. And the first club that popped up was London Smoke. And kind of the rest was history. I went down to a first training session, loved it, got hooked. And that was that. And I was just hooked from it from the moment I started playing. Absolutely love it.
Now, Jack, that's really interesting that you say that, because given the fact that you came from contact sport, because that's something I want to come to later. You've come from playing contact, which I played for a good number of years, into flag football. A lot of the times, a lot of people that I've spoken to have done the same thing, but also haven't done the same thing. Some people have gone straight into flag because it's the first thing they've heard about, and also there's obviously the thing about playing contact, the aggressiveness, the danger to health. But I'm really interested that you said that, and I'm going to touch on that later in the show. But Liam, talk to me about how you came across flag football and why flag football is a sport that you continue to play.
I mean, why I play is just so addictive. Like Jack, I just got hooked straight away. So I played team sports all my life, played football growing up, played basketball when I was doing my undergraduate degree. And then there was maybe a 5-year period from like 2013 to late 2018 when I wasn't really playing any organised team sports. And I just really missed that kind of competitive side. And I've always liked the NFL, followed the NFL since about 2007, but never really fancied playing, contact American football myself. I'm not really built for it. But so I Googled sort of late 2018 because I didn't really want to go play football or basketball again. If there was such thing as non-contact American football, and in Manchester and in the Manchester Crows popped up as the top thing on Google, and their website at the time, it's changed a little bit now, is amazing because we had one of the guys in the team was a web developer and he'd made this really slick website, so it was really attractive, and I was like, right, I'm gonna contact them. So I emailed Phil, who's the general manager. He was on holiday in Thailand at the time, but still got back to me within 3 minutes, which I'm sure his partner wasn't very happy about. And just said, look, we're on holiday at the minute. We're going to start up again in January, so that'll be January 2019. So went to my first session then and haven't looked back. So yeah, I've been playing since then, and yeah, I just fell in love with the sport.
Now, what I find interesting about that, Liam, is number one, you're based in Manchester, right? And I'm pretty sure you know now the Manchester Titans are currently, I'd say, the best team in the UK, having won the BAFA crown over the London Warriors. London Warriors, who obviously have won it for so many years, and prior to that, the London Blitz. But currently, the Titans hold the crown, and that's obviously contact sport. Um, but it's interesting because both of you have opposing sides of how you got into the sport. Liam, you're talking about not you don't like the idea of contact, or not being built for it. Although I will tell you now, you're definitely built for it. There is a position for everybody. So ignore all that. There's definitely a spot for you if you wanted to go down that route. But and then there's you, Jack, who came from the contact sport. So I want to ask you guys this question, given the fact that one has played contact and one hasn't. Coming from playing contact sport, Jack, and now that you play flag football, surely, and I've heard this amongst other people, other conversations, you must have the people who hear that you now play flag and wonder, why don't you just stick with contact? You that's played it, that's played it, I understand, there's so many things that come with it. I stopped playing 3 years ago now, for a number of reasons, obviously health, travel, everything that comes part of that. And you named a few teams. Maidstone Pumas, I believe they have folded now. I think you are correct. East Kent Mavericks are still around. But what is it that you feel you can get from flag football that you can't necessarily get from contact football, minus obviously the more obvious things like the injuries and the the threats to your health?
I think for me, it's the accessibility of it, isn't it? Like, if we talk about contact football, tackle football, you got to have your pads, all your equipment that you need, as well as the space to play it. You need X number of people on a team. We're talking about 30, 40, 50 sometimes on a team sort of thing that you need. Whereas we just don't have that flag. It's just so much more accessible for everyone to come pick it up and start. Because to start and play it without, you could take away the flag and just do two-handed touch. There's versions of that happen in the States at the moment as well. And we have a few pickup matches in London down at Southwark Park sort of thing where people are just doing that because it's so much easier to play. And I think for me, that was one of the big things. Myself as well, I'm a bit more of an athletic guy. I'm similar to Lee. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm tall, but I'm not very broad or anything like that. So when I was getting hit and tackled and stuff like that on contact, the health, the injuries, that stuff, they crop up. And you don't really get that on flag. We're talking a lot more kind of dynamic body movements, that sort of stuff. So you're picking up the injuries sort of thing from there. But, that's what you get in any sort of sport. And you think the most popular sport in the UK is football, soccer, isn't it? Because it's so accessible and easy for everyone to play, both men, women, boys, girls, whoever it is, everyone can pick up a ball and play it. Same with flag, it starts like that. All you need is a couple of flags, and you can pick up really cheap on that. Then you just need a football, a couple of coins, way to go, and you can start a league, like a friendly league sort of thing like that. So for me, it was just a no-brainer, and I think personally, there's no way I would ever go back to contact now.
Fair enough. Liam, you are a wide receiver / blitzer. In your opinion, what's the best thing about flag football?
I think the women the women's team when they were on spoke about this. It's that combination of the physicality of the sport, all the physical things that come with playing it, but then also the mental side and the tactical side. I think that's what really attracts to me, because I'm a bit of a nerd. I like doing analysis and game planning and things like that. So being able to combine actually performing on the field with that element, and trying to essentially get the better of not only the person across from you, it might be the defensive back and so on. So trying to beat them with your route running or your speed. It's also about, right, okay, how can we win, through our scheme and through our tactics as well. So I think that combination of everything, I think it's actually quite unique in some ways. It's very, soccer's much more dynamic, and you can make adjustments at halftime. And in basketball, you might be able to do a little bit more with the timeouts and things. But I think in flag football, from play to play, you're making those adjustments and you're kind of setting teams up and you can move things around. I just really like that element of it for sure.
Now, you mentioned something about the tactics and changing up plays. Now, this is one element of the sport, flag football, that I don't think people realise. I think people can watch flag football and assume it's just a bunch of people running around, but because it moves so fast and you don't have the contact side of it, like you say, there are a lot of tactics involved, a lot of decision making, a lot of drawing up plays that do happen that people may or may not realise. But on on a talk on the ascending theme of flag football. Look at the Super Bowl or the Pro Bowl even, where they've just basically changed the whole format and have thrown in flag football, which, to be fair, I think is 100% there to stay. And I think it does so much better than what we had in the game of getting all the superstars or the guys who didn't make it to the Super Bowl onto the field, half willingly playing football with phones in their pockets and this kind of stuff. And now you've got the guys playing flag football, and you see how competitive it gets, right? Diana Flores, in terms of the women's game, she had the amazing Super Bowl ad where she's promoting women. I mean, the rise of women playing flag football it's there for everybody to see, and I think flag football in general as a sport is it's up and coming. There's talks about having it in the 2028 Olympics, and I know you guys might have your eyes set on that, maybe, but I say that to ask you guys this: flag football and travel. I'm not going to come back to you, Liam. I know recently you guys were at the King Bowl, I believe it was, in the Netherlands. But talk to me about how playing flag football has allowed you to take advantage of travel.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think I talked about the sport being addictive, and I think going to these international tournaments is is one of the most addictive parts of it. So last year would have been 2022 would have been my first year going to these international tournaments. So went to King Bowl last year, and that was my first tournament. And then also last year went to Big Bowl, which is a tournament in Germany. Went to Pink Bowl, which is another tournament in the Netherlands, and then Champions Bowl in Croatia. So, I love traveling and I love seeing other countries, meeting people from different countries. So, flag has been an amazing opportunity to do that. Obviously that's been through GB, but it's also been through other club teams as well, and actually just being asked to play for other teams at these tournaments as well. And in this year, like you said, we were at King Bowl in the Netherlands at the weekend just gone, but going to Copenhagen in a couple of weeks to play in Sport Mondebol, which is my first time playing. That's going to be with the Glasgow Hornets, who aren't my normal team, but they've asked me to go along with them. So yeah, I think it's not great for the bank balance, but it's certainly a lot of fun to go to these tournaments, and I've learned a lot as well. I've definitely become a better player from going to these tournaments and playing against some of the really top players in Europe. Seeing different teams and how they play and how they approach the game. From my perspective with the Crows, I also am the offensive coordinator, so it's I've stolen a lot of ideas and plays from all these other teams from around Europe from just watching them and at these tournaments. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to play a sport that you love, but also do a bit of traveling as well, and spending time with your teammates who become your close friends, and being able to play and win with them. And yeah, that's definitely one of the most fun parts of playing this sport, definitely.
And I know for a fact that isn't something you get with playing the contact version of the sport unless you are playing in Europe per se or somewhere else. I mean, you don't here in the UK, you don't get that kind of opportunity. So I can completely resonate with that, and I can see just like the ladies mentioned, the amount of travel you get to take part in with flag football is second to none, really. And Jack, obviously you're part of the team GB as well. I imagine you've had the same kind of opportunities, maybe different opportunities to travel too.
Yeah, there's been a heck of a lot, and like Liam says, it really does impact the bank balance when we say that. I think at Smoke as well, we're doing quite a lot. So we've probably got 6-7 international tournaments over the course of the year that we're going to, ranging from Glasgow
Wow.
down. We was in Spain a couple of weeks ago. Like Liam says, we've got Copenhagen in a couple of weeks as well. We'll be in Ireland for the Euros, obviously. There's back in Croatia at the end of the year as well. So yeah, so there's a heck of a lot of stuff going on, and it's great. As Liam says, it's great because we're meeting new teams, we're playing against kind of different teams that have different types of play style. You come up against a Spanish sort of thing, and flag football, for those who don't know, it's a 5-on-5 version of the game. But you often see 2-3 quarterbacks on some teams as well, and obviously that has a different dynamic to the game as well. And the Spaniards, for example, they love playing with that 2 QB sort of stuff. We don't always play with that in the UK. We're typically a bit more conventional with just the standard quarterback. So when you go and play against these different teams that have these different tactics and stuff like that, it's fantastic. You learn so much. You can bring that to your own game here in the UK sort of thing, and just kind of elevate your standards there. But I think another thing for me is the community. Like, the flag football community is fantastic. And Liam, you had it at King Bowl last weekend. The number of people that were cheering you on from all different European teams and cities and stuff like that in the final, it just looked fantastic, And it's like that every single game. You meet such great people through the community. everyone's cheering each other on, having a good time, sort of thing. You build up your rivalries, but you build up your friendships as well, sort of thing. So it's just fantastic to do, and I absolutely love going to these European tournaments. For me, they're some of the highlights of the calendar year. They are.
I'm sitting here kind of jealous, man. I've seen some of these clips. You
You got
guys
you
just
got to get
travel,
involved.
travel,
You got to
travel,
get
travel.
involved.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
definitely.
what. I mean, I played for 11 years. I love the contact side of the sport. I wouldn't go back to it just because of where I'm at in life at the minute, and obviously different priorities. And obviously, we spoke about the dangers in terms of the health risk to health, but. We've spoken about how flag can enable you to travel the world. We've talked about how accessible the sport is, and that's one of the huge factors as to why the game is growing so fast. What about challenges? Liam, if I'm not incorrect, you teach or are a lecturer at Manchester University, I believe. How has playing flag football, how do you manage that and balance that with your lifestyle and your work? Do things ever get in the way of each other, or do you find it's quite a healthy balance?
Yeah, it's a great question, and then being an academic, actually, it times up really nicely with being a flag football player who wants to play in all these tournaments and play in the national program, because typically, the busiest time as an academic is from October to Christmas, the first semester, and this is in the UK anyway, and then from January to April, the second semester. And then thankfully the flag football season runs from April to September. So, obviously you have to do that training in the off season, from October through to April. But, I can, in the summer, and it's a little bit quieter at work, there's no teaching, typically. There's other things to work on, but it's just not less hectic than it is during semester time when the students are around and I'm doing a lot of marking and things like that. So yeah, it's worked out really well. So I'm able to, and it's a job where I've got a lot of autonomy in terms of what I spend my day doing. Not sure if my employers will watch this, but I might spend a little bit of time in the office doing some film review, or I might nip to the gym at 3 o'clock, and then do some emails afterwards. So I'm very lucky in that regard, where I can almost sort of dictate what I want to do in a day, and so I sometimes prioritize flag if I want to. But yeah, if you're watching this, I'm just saying that for the camera. But yeah, this is it's really good that I'm able to manage my own schedule, and like I say, the two really sync up nicely with how they work within a calendar year.
And Jack, have you faced any particular obstacles either coming into flag, during flag, or currently, whether it be injuries? I'm intrigued because again, it's so accessible, but what about the challenges?
Yeah, and like Liam says, my work, I'm not in education, in IT, so a bit more of an office job, a bit more of a standard sort of thing. But I'm very lucky because my work has been very accommodating for it as well. I talk to them about it, and they know sort of thing that goes on and kind of the setup and sort of thing. And yeah, flexible hours of work and that sort of stuff. And my partner, she also plays. She's very accommodating for everything that travel and that sort of stuff. So we make up the time sort of thing with each other so that we can still have the time together and everything like that, but we can still go away and do our own things with that as well. So, there are challenges to it, and the timing of one of them, like I say, because we're, at the Smoke at least anyway, we're going away 6-7 times a year sort of thing. Plus we train every Saturday. There's weeknight trainings on the Wednesday as well for those to get into London. So there's if you want to do it and if you want to devote full time to it, there's a heck of a lot of football you can play and sort of thing, and just elevating your game. And obviously for me, I don't live in London, so I'm having to commute. I've got an hour train journey, then I've got another 45-minute tube from North London to Southwest London in Clapham. So if I want to do training on a Saturday, it takes it out of me. And I'm starting the day at 8, not getting back till 3:30. So I think for me that's probably the biggest challenge. And I imagine probably quite a lot of people have that issue because there aren't that many flag football teams in the UK. You can go on the BAFA website and dig them all out and look for your local one sort of thing, but there aren't a lot. And I know the youth programs are having issues with that at the moment as well, because the youth national program this year has changed into like kind of region events. So it's now up to the club sort of thing to put on their own tournament days, which then they get put into points that add up to the league. Then you have regional days and then the whole global UK days as well, just to try and make it a bit more accessible so that people aren't traveling all over the country sort of thing with young kids and that sort of stuff, which is, it's a really good way of just trying to get more games.
So the other thing I noticed is both of you guys coach. So Jack, I know you're part of the BAFCA community, and obviously Liam, you mentioned you're an offensive coordinator. How does and Jack, for you, how does coaching affect the playing? Do you find that because you're a coach, it helps your play style and it helps you in the game when you're on the field? Or I can imagine, obviously, if you're coaching and you're drawing things up, I mean, you'll tell me how it works, but I can imagine it can be quite a big benefit to you, both coaching and playing.
Yeah, I've learned a heck of a lot. So I've done my level one qualification because I want to try and make a bit more of a career out of flag football, and obviously that's very hard when it's not a funded sport. But I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about it, and I want to get as many people playing it as I possibly can. And if that's not me being a player, then how else can I give back to that community? And the only way for me that I knew was by doing coaching. So that's how I kind of signed up for it. And I started off with the London Amazons, which is the team my partner plays for. So her and a friend of ours, they kind of helped set up the club, and I just offered, the knowledge that I need to kind of get the club right up and running. They've got a proper manager and offensive coach and that sort of stuff now who can look after it sort of thing. But I have recently been asked to help out with the women's GB setup from a friend's point of view up there as well. And there's a fantastic coaching staff behind that. Those guys that are running the women's side of things are so organised. They put in really good shifts and everything like that for the team to get them to the standard that they are. And I'm actually just learning. I'm there kind of helping with what I have, but I'm learning a lot from the coaches as well. Those guys have been doing it for a long time. Ex-players that are now turned to the coaching sort of side. So I'm just learning from them. I'm looking at new plays outside of what we do in London Smoke, outside of what we do in Team GB sort of thing, looking at new concepts, looking at new drills sort of thing, and how I can use those to kind of my own game and share that with other people as well sort of thing. So for me, it's as much as kind of learning myself, but then also trying to give back to that as well.
And Liam, how do you find it? I mean, being an offensive coordinator, you're obviously you're in the mindset of this play, that play. Obviously, it's a fast moving game. Do you find that it helps you, or do you find that it can be a bit much balancing the two?
Yeah, no, it's been a new role for me this season, but I feel like I've been able to adjust to that. I think it is a little bit where you might think a bit more than you normally would as a player. So if somebody else is calling the plays, as a receiver, you look at the play and you see your route and you just see what everybody else is doing and you kind of understand what you need to do, and that's it. Whereas as an offensive coordinator, I need to, all right, the play's over, I need to look around, right? What did they just run there? Okay, I can see that, yeah, and I maybe have to ask some of the other, like the quarterback, what did they see? Maybe ask the other receivers, did you see something there on that play? I need to think about what the down and distance is, what's the situation. So that's becoming natural now, where I can process that information pretty quickly, and I can then, because we only have in BAFA league games, it's a bit different in tournaments, we actually have less time, but in a BAFA league game you have a 25-second play clock. So you have a little bit of time to decide which play to run and go for it. And obviously it will also depend if you're in a 2-minute drill, if you're rushing or whatever. But yeah, I think I've got definitely improved my own kind of game intelligence and knowledge from becoming an offensive coordinator, doing that studying of other teams and how people run, and obviously then studying opponent defenses ahead of time and defensive schemes and preparing plays that, okay, if they are predominantly going to run this scheme or whatever, we'll run these plays and so on. So yeah, it's definitely given me a big appreciation for that. And actually I've developed a lot of those skills from being as part of the GB setup and working with the coaches. So I've been part of the Silver Lions, which is essentially like the development squad since the end of 2021. And then working with the coaches, head coach Dale Kirby's an amazing coach. I've learned so much from him, not just from a scheme perspective, from a leadership perspective, how to conduct yourself and how to lead a group of players. Nick Keese, who's the offensive coordinator for the Silver Lions, or I think he's currently on a break, but I learned a lot from him and how he approaches the game. So yeah, and then Paul Zinkus, who's a defensive coordinator, actually sitting in those defensive meetings has been really beneficial to me as a receiver and as an offensive coordinator, because it gives me a better understanding of how a defensive coordinator calls plays, how the schemes, the little intimate details of defensive schemes, and then how defensive backs actually play within those schemes. I think that's been a huge thing for me. So it's been a big learning curve for the past year and a half as being part of Team GB, and I hope that I've been able to bring a lot of that knowledge to the Crows and benefited those guys as well with my club team.
You mentioned GB a couple of times there. So, on the theme of GB, let's talk about the European Championships, the IFAF European Championships. You guys are going to Ireland. Again, I
Cannot wait.
spoke to the
So
girls about
excited.
this. Yeah, I bet, I bet. Jack, talk to me about that competition. Obviously, looking at previous results in the past. Number one, who are favourites to potentially go and win that tournament? And number two, what's the process like leading up to such a big tournament like that?
So this is going to be my first Euros. So for me, I'm going based upon who are the good clubs in Europe, basically. And to me, the three countries that stand out: Germany, Spain, and France. It's interesting as well. I think many people who may have seen the World Games, which is kind of like the sports that
Yeah,
aren't in the Olympics, I think. Italy was obviously they came runners up in that and had a fantastic one. But the Italian teams, I don't put them as sort of the same caliber as the Spanish and the Germans and the French teams, for example. So for me, I'm going in, I'm thinking, those three teams, they're going to be the teams to beat. The build up for us is just all hands on deck and try and get as much training as possible. We only have a limited number of kind of attempts that we can do with everyone together, and the 12 squad roster has changed now because previous IFAF events it used to be a 15 player roster, but now it's been reduced to 12 for this one for Euros. Which when you have your starting five on offense and defense, that's 10. You've only got two subs there. That adds a whole new layer of complexity to the game, sort of thing. And then you've got decisions such as: are you taking just one quarterback?
yeah,
How many centers are you taking? Are you taking people that just play receiver, just play defense, sort of thing? Um, there's a whole lot of complexity that's being added to it. It'd be interesting to see how different teams and different countries have approached this. We've gone with our standard of what's been happened, and we've got 12 people that have confirmed for the squad going, which is fantastic. Now we just want to get to work as much of a unit as possible and kind of gel as much of a unit and get as many camps in as we possibly can. But like I say, we've only got a finite amount of those. So it's down to us at our club level to
yeah.
make sure that we're putting in the work ourselves, doing as much training as we possibly can multiple times a week and finding the time to, really elevate ourselves to make sure that when we come to the Euros in August, we're at the peak of our performance and we can go and win it.
Literally, I know it sounds like it's a long time away, but it's literally around the corner. It's
Yeah.
actually flying, right? It's
Close.
flying round. Yeah, it really is. And Liam, is this going to be your first Euros too, or have you got previous experience?
No, yeah, this will be my first major tournament with GB. So like I say, I've been part of the Silver Lions. So we've been going to these tournaments that are for um, any team can enter. So we'll be playing against other club teams. So it's a similar tournaments that London Smoke Jack's team would go to. So yeah, this will be my first major tournament.
Right. So, guys, I mean, we've spoken about the rise of flag football. Again, it's extremely accessible, and we've seen that in many different ways in both men and women's football, all the way up into the NFL. Heck, even at the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl. To anyone who's watching this show, be it young kids, and we see the rise of kids playing flag football too. Jaguars do a lot in the UK with regards to flag football, and most days whenever I drive by any kind of park, I see this version of the sport being played quite often. Be it kids, people who are looking for something to take part in, people who just want to get engaged, people who want a sort of sporting family. To wrap up, what's the one thing that you Jack, you would say, or you would want people to know about flag football? Because there's probably a lot of misconceptions out there with regards to the sport. One being there's no tactics. Well, there definitely is. What's the one thing you'd want someone to know about the sport, which is flag football?
I think for me, I just want to see as many people as I can play it. No matter what age you are, boys, girls, whatever, just go and play it. If there's a team local to you, go find out, go play, go get involved with it. Because like I say, the community behind it is so fantastic. Everyone's out there having a really good time. There's real big organisations that are going out there. You mentioned the Manchester Titans earlier. They've got a huge organisation going on, sort of thing. So if you're up in that Manchester area, that's fantastic. But if you don't know where to go to get your own club, if you go onto the BAFA website, they have sections in there where you can go to the flag football, and then it has a big map that will come up and it'll show you based upon regions all the local teams, officiated teams that you can go and sign up for. And all of those teams will have Instagrams, they'll have Facebook handles, some of them have got websites. just get in touch, go along, and you're going to meet some really good people. You're going to learn a lot. And even if you've never picked up an American football before, it really doesn't matter because, like I said, the game's so accessible. Just think of it as like Bulldog. Once you get that ball, you just got to run. Like, it's fantastic, and
Yeah.
just get yourself involved with it. And also, there's nothing stopping people starting a team. If there's a group of mates together that want to do it, we've done it at the London Amazon sort of thing. You know, that's the only this I think anyway the second women's flag football team in London now. There's no reason why there couldn't be more. So, you know, if there's a group of you get together, it's quite simple to do. And we've been through the process, and you know, I'm more than happy to help out people who want to get involved and to kind of point them in directions and that sort of stuff. So I'm always accessible, sort of on Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, I just want to see more people play it. I love it. I'm so passionate about it, and I just want it to keep going as much as it possibly can.
Believe me, I can feel the passion through the screen, man. I can tell how much of an advocate you are for the sport. So no, I love the energy. I love the energy. Liam, what's the one thing you'd want people to know about flag football?
I think I mean, I'm biased obviously, but I can't think of another sport that combines just so many different aspects. So the physical, the mental, the sort of tactical side of things. And that doesn't mean that, you kind of, if you're somebody who doesn't feel like they might be physically able to perform this sport, then that's definitely not the case. I mean, you can go down and it's so accessible. Like Jack says, there's so many different positions and you'll just learn so much from playing that, you know, you will pick up the sport really quickly. And there's just so many different things that you could do. You know, there'll be people who don't realize that they can actually throw a ball really well. And so they should go down to a flag football session and give it a go, because they might find that actually, they can throw, you know. There's people, you watch some sort of under 17s, I think it was, the playoffs in September last year, you know, and there's these guys throwing the ball, guys and girls throwing the ball better than some of the adult players, you know, definitely better than me, but that's not saying much. But just go down and give it a go, because you might find that there's just something that you're actually really good at. And like I say, there's a position for you or on the field for sure, no matter what. And you're going to meet an amazing community. Like Jack says, you know, if you're in the flag community, and there's somebody, you know, I'm not going to swear, but if there's somebody that isn't a good guy, it certainly shows very quickly, because everybody else is super nice, super lovely, and you're going to get on with everybody. So it's certainly not only accessible, but it's just very inclusive, and you're going to make to feel very welcome. So I really hope that, you know, the sport continues to grow, and it's not just on people going down and showing up. It is, like Jack says, for more clubs hopefully to start, and more opportunities for people to go to camps and things like that. There's somebody who's playing in the GB Silver Lions now. I played with him at the weekend, called Ozzy, who started playing flag through something called Big Kid Flag Football, which is in London. I don't know if you've had anyone on from there, but that might be something that would be amazing, because yeah, I think he got spotted at one of these events, came down to a GB trial, and now he's making amazing plays in international tournaments. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure playing with him. So I think more opportunities like that for people, and suddenly they'll find themselves flying to Amsterdam, you know, taking a train to Utrecht and playing in a weekend of international football. So yeah, I think he loved that, and hopefully we'll see more people do that.
That Big Kid Flag Foundation is fantastic, the work that they're doing. And I know they've been working closely with the UK Dukes as well. And, you know, the UK Dukes is a massive name here with the work that they're doing in schools and stuff like that. So, yeah, the work that both those two organisations have been doing has been fantastic for us.
Absolutely. Shout out to the UK Dukes, Phoebe and Kenny. And obviously you mentioned Big Kids Foundation, Shaninga, who heads it up, and they do a lot of great work with the youth in the UK, and many of them who've flown out to Vegas to take part in the Pro Bowl, only just gone. But with that brings us to the end of the show. That's been a great one, guys. I think flag football, without a doubt, is on the rise. It's there for everybody to see, both for men and women, boys and girls, again, all the way up until the NFL in terms of Pro Bowl. It's good to shed some light on it, because again, like you say, we need it to grow, and we need it to spread. We need more teams. We need people getting involved, and I think it will get there. Like I said, they're already looking at having flag football as part of the 2028 Olympics, so I think it's a matter of time as opposed to when. But it's been a great conversation, guys. Jack of London Smoke, Liam, Manchester Crows, both Team GB athletes who are going to be out in Ireland taking part in the IFAF European Championships. It's been a great episode. I've been George from Georgeonsports, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.